Have y'all ready with me today. I'm debating on cutting all my hair off. I'm debating on it. Really debating on it. Let's get a good camera angle here. I want to turn down my TV real quick so we don't get flagged. Probably put a shirt on. Oh, my remote's not working. There we go. Put a shirt on too real quick so we don't get flagged. I just got my account in good standards again, so I don't think wearing a tank top's a big deal, but you know how YouTube is. It's like makeup or something on my shirt. I don't know what happened there. Food, something. Something that was on my mind for a little bit here. I don't know, I was playing San Andreas. And, I just beat San Andreas last night. So, on the end of the line mission, when you go and kill Big Smoke, you gotta get the police tank and ram right through the smokes. I don't want to say what it is and get flagged. But, his house, that factory, we'll call it. And, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I did a lot of time, I spent a lot of time locked up. I spent 3 years in prison, and I spent 3 years in prison, and I spent 2.5 years, a little more than 2.5 in jail. So, a 3-year bid, I did 3 6-month bids in county, and then I spent 4 months in jail, and then I spent like a little under a year in jail. So, because I've been arrested, as an adult, I've been arrested 6 times. And, what's up? And I was thinking, I used to be a totally different person before prison. Mainly prison. Like, jail, I still had the same type of mindset, right? Like, because at this time, I was a blown out addict, Like, I wasn't like a junkie, like, shooting up. I never shot up. I never, homeless, yes, but like hopping on different people's couches type of homeless. Not like sleeping in tents. I've never slept in a tent. I've never, I've passed out on the road, I've done that before, but never like willingly. That was just me being so out of it and up for so many days I crashed out, So I don't want to say I had it super bad. There is people that have really had it bad. They had no families, that they've just destroyed every relationship, in their life, and they got it really bad. This was just a vicious cycle of me doing different substances, and it would be like one substance this year, and then I'd start another substance the next year. One pill this year, then next year I'm hooked to this pill. I'd stop doing that, and then I'd start doing this pill, or I would do this substance. That's how my addiction went. It wasn't like one particular substance that I had trouble with for all these different years. So maybe I got lucky in that way, but I definitely messed up my brain chemistry with addiction and stuff, that's a thing. So when I went to prison, people were just so different. You know, jail is like a bunch of people that you meet in the streets, you know, like, you know when you're walking the streets and you know, like, those types of people, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, he's probably up to no good. She's probably up to no good. He looks like he does drugs. Excuse my language, I don't want to get flagged. She looks like, you know, she's probably in the hotels, you know. You get a lot of those people. But in prison, it's like crazy because some of these people, you know, jail is a 1-year thing. You'll meet a few people in jail that, what's up everybody? I see y'all commenting. Jail, you'll meet a few people that have been sitting in there for a few years. Like when I went to the prison dorm, there was a guy in jail who's been there for 8 years fighting a case, not trying to go to prison. This guy was so determined on beating his case. It was like a murder case, right? And so he allegedly killed somebody, and they had him in a prison dorm waiting to, like, you know, get it all done and go to prison. And so he wasn't trying to do that. They were trying to get him 25 years or something crazy. And he just wasn't having that. So you'll meet a few of those people in there, but in jail, it's usually just people doing a year. You know, this guy's been in here for 6 months, that guy's been in there for 2, that guy's been in there for 10 months, he gets out next year, or next month. Excuse me. Prison, these people have been in there for years. You know, in prison, these people have been in there for years. You know, that you get to go outside. In jail, you don't get to go outside. In prison, you get to go outside and hit the rec yard. So you'll see a lot of people in, like, with these crazy physiques. They got the V shapes, they got jacked arms, they're going on pull-up bars, and they're, like, doing these curls on them. They're doing a bunch of dips. You know, people are doing push-ups at their bunk, you know, because you got this little space. It's from here to here. Like, that's your space in your bunk. So you literally get up and the next bunk's right here, you know. So people are just here doing their little push-ups or whatever. And you get a lot of that. You got the crowd that does substances, you know, all the addicts and stuff, because anything, you know, you'll see these prison videos and they say whatever you can get on the streets, you can get in prison. True. Super true. I've seen, you know what the blues are. You know what the blues are. I don't want to, you know, talk crazy and get flagged, but they had the fake ones in there. They were 15s. They looked like, they looked, because they're supposed to look green. They looked like greenish blue. You know, they had like a food coloring dye to them. They were fake, and they had you know what in it. And everyone's on the subs. Everyone's on strips. They're smoking that crazy black stuff. They call it the black, and people have seizures. I've seen so many people. I've seen a dude fall off his bunk, hit his head on the ground, die. I've seen a dude get killed for owing over it. I've seen a dude, he took off all his clothes and just started swinging at people. Everyone's running away, you know. You ain't getting no points for beating up a dude high on that stuff, you know what I mean? And so dude took off all of his clothes, boxers and everything, everything's hanging out, and just started swinging on people. Swinging on, you know, he couldn't even swing on the officer. They already done sprayed him, tased him, tackled him, everything. It's a crazy world. So what makes prison more interesting is that, you know, it's its own little world, right? And it changes you because you become accustomed to living a certain way. There's rules to being in prison. It's a whole different type of world. And it's made that way because... What's up, everybody? It's made that way because there has to be... if you take a bunch of criminals that don't want to follow the rules, and you take a bunch of people that don't want to follow the rules and that are violent and deadly and dangerous, and you put them all together in one room, it's going to be mass destruction. So you have to have some kind of structure to it, you know what I mean? There has to be a type of like a type of way of living to it, or it'll all fall apart. And with prison, prisoners run the prison, obviously, you know, so it's not like, you know, the officers have their rules, but that's not that's not what's applied. It's prison rules. You know what I mean? So you just get adapted to a certain way of living, and it changes you. You don't really think about it that much when you first get out, but as time goes on and you start reflecting on how you used to think and how you used to be and how you used to live, yeah, it makes you think. I changed, and some of it I feel like isn't for the better. You know, I know prison will change you. Yeah, I went for a few years. I went for 3 years. I feel like it can change you for the better in a lot of good ways. You'll have more structure in your life. You'll have more discipline. You'll be more balanced. You'll be able to organize better. Yeah, your room's gonna always be cleaner because it's all about cleanliness. Like, your bunk's gotta look clean. Everything's gotta look clean and organized. Or people are gonna look at you crazy and treat you crazy. So you're gonna be like super clean when you get out. Everything's gonna be super organized. Everything's gonna be super clean. I was there for 3 years, and there's good stuff like that. You're gonna make some things to eat, and you might still eat like that when you get out. Like I don't really eat like ramen soups and stuff like that, but if I'm gonna eat one, like, I'm still gonna do crazy stuff to it. I'm gonna chop up some chicken. I'm gonna put mayonnaise in it, maybe a little bit of mustard. I'm gonna dice up pickles and put pickles in it. I'm gonna put a little shot of pickle juice, 2 shots of pickle juice right from the jar into it. You'll once in a while you'll still eat crazy things that you never tried until you went, but I feel like there was some bad things that happened too. I feel like I'm more reserved. I'm more antisocial. Thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. But like, just things that has changed me going to prison, and maybe it is for the better, because, you could say being more reserved and antisocial will keep you out of trouble. Absolutely. But it's like, I have no interest in being around people anymore. I like, because, when you spend all these years, because don't forget all the years in jail too, and I've only been out for a year, I enjoy peace, harmony, just quietness. I don't like loud noises and sirens and hearing like construction power tools, and I'm like more sensitive. My ears are more sensitive to certain sounds and noises. Like, I love my dog, but if she starts barking, I start to get agitated when she keeps barking and barking, because I had to go so long without peace and quiet. I treasure that. I treasure quietness. You know what I mean? So I can't recall a time, I'm sure there was, but I can't really recall too many times where noise bothered me, because I was always the loud one. I was always the class clown, the loud guy, making all the noise, making all whatever, I was always around noise, and always talking. I could never shut up. And now it's just like, peace and harmony is amazing. I treasure a quiet day. I treasure a day where I don't have to talk to nobody. I don't got to deal with nobody. There was so many years of doing that. I just like my peace and quiet. I'm starting to understand how older people are. Like, people in their 60s and stuff, they just real quiet and laying back and not doing anything, you know what I mean? I'm starting to like understand the mindset of an older individual who just wants peace and quiet all the time. And I really want to say prison has done that. It's taken its toll on me in many ways. You might be sore a lot more, because I don't want to say all the fights and stuff, but there's people that have went to prison and gotten way more fights and I've seen people really get messed up in there, you know, breaking bones, ribs. I've seen people get broken ribs. I've seen a dude's head split open and like his brain sticking out, you know what I mean? And so prison can really change your body, and you know, you sleep on these bunks for years and it just messes up your back. Like, I gotta stretch every day. I get so stiff from sleeping on bunks for 6 years, pretty much. And, you know, and not even just that, couch hopping and all that for all the years and being stupid before that and in between. It's like my body's stiff all the time. I gotta stretch every day. If I don't stretch, I'll be in pain. So I know that has a big thing to do with prison, because I remember, you know, my neck was definitely in pain from some car accidents and stuff, but you don't even get a pillow in jail. You know what I mean? You're just sleeping on a little mat with nothing in it, and you're sleeping on a metal frame that's smaller than a military bed. You know what I mean? And it's just a bunk. And so even in prison, the mats were terrible, especially at the work camp. And you know, the pillow sucked. It's not a real pillow. It's just crap, you know what I mean? And my neck is still messed up to this day. I gotta stretch my neck all throughout the day, every day. And I don't know, you know, it's just, it takes its toll out on you. It really does. You're gonna meet so many interesting people, and you're gonna have all these conversations with all these different people, you know, because your first week or two, you know, it is what it is. You're the new guy, especially if you've never been. You got to learn how prison works and how to carry yourself and everything. But once you start interacting with people, because you don't want to be the guy that doesn't talk to nobody, you know, because then all eyes are going to, you know, be on you, or, you know, people are going to think you're a weirdo, and you just don't want, it doesn't matter what people think, but in prison, it kind of matters what people think, because you got to live with these people. I don't, you know, the real world, like I said, is a whole different world than in there. This is, the real world is about, you know, when people care what other people think, that's about, like, just feelings and stuff. In prison, it's survival. You know, this isn't about your feelings and caring if people think about you or like you or don't like you. This is survival, because people are dying at least every week. Maybe not every single day. Maybe in some really, really, really super violent camps, you know, people are dying all throughout the day, every day. But, you know, where I was at, you know what I mean? People are gonna die, you know, at least every week or two. So, you don't want that to be you. It taught me structure. It taught me structure. It taught me, you know, it gave me a good work ethic. It definitely gave me a good work ethic. I had a job pretty much my entire bid. I had a job pretty much my entire bid, and I will say, because I went from working at a sawmill, I did staff maintenance, which is like working on all the houses, roofing, carpentry, the floors, you redoing walls, tearing apart walls, doing drywall, plumbing. You know, you're gonna learn plumbing. You're digging trenches for pipes. You're doing all the yard maintenance and weed whacking and zero turn mowing, and you know, if you got to install a new window, you're taking out windows, measuring, cutting, getting whatever, putting in windows, whatever. You're going to learn a lot of stuff, and you're going to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day at least, if not 10. I had the outside, I was on the outside work squad pretty much my entire bid. So staff maintenance, doing lawn maintenance, there's a certain name for it, working at the sawmill. My last week, they had me as, and only like one person gets this job, I got to do all the cooking on the grills and stuff for the higher ups. Like when there's meetings with all the colonels and lieutenants and stuff like that, I got to be the cook to cook all their food. So obviously you're gonna sample the food, you know what I mean? So that was, you know, an awesome job. But I only had it for like a week. And then I went to work release. Became a furnace operator, melt deck operator, started out as a furnace maintenance technician. And so I got to learn all these different things is where I'm getting at. And I didn't really want to work a job before going to prison. So now, like, work doesn't bother me. It annoys me. It can be frustrating. It annoys me for sure. People annoy me more than anything. But it's not like something that I dread. I'm not dreading on going to work like I used to feel before going to prison. That was definitely a problem that I had. I had a big problem with going to work before I went in. I never wanted to work. I wanted to break the law. I wanted to commit crimes and be stupid, you know. I used to break into houses. I always was trying to sell something, whether it was something stolen or it was a type of illegal substance or product. And if you were to look at my record, you'll see that all of my charges are substance related, and that's what I was always trying to do. But if I didn't have the money for some reason, or I didn't have nowhere to stay, so hotels and trying to find places to rent for the week, you know, or a room to rent for the month, and all this and that, I would go do something stupid in the middle of the night, or, you know, right before the sun rises, and that was that. And I'm not proud of that, and I ask God to forgive me for all those things that I used to do. You know, I've asked Him for forgiveness, and it's nothing that I'm proud of. I was just an addict, and I was trying to survive. And I had a bad problem with stealing. You know, maybe not from family or friends, but I had a bad problem with stealing, you know, from people I didn't know. And I'm not justifying it. I just, you know, I do look at it as two different types of characters when it comes to being a thief. None of it is good, but if you steal from your family, you're messed up. You know, if you steal from people that look out for you or care about you, I think you're a total piece of crap. You know, you're still a piece of crap for being a thief, but you're a real piece of crap if you know what I mean, if it's your family. And yeah, you know, I still live with the pain because of all that. I believe that a lot of my substance use was to block out emotions, you know, because I always would be depressed and I wanted to be numb. And little did I realize a big part of it was the things that I was actually doing was what I was trying to escape from. Because I didn't enjoy that lifestyle. That's not who I am. That's not what I want to be and what I want to portray as. I'm a great guy, you know, and I want to be a great guy. But you can't be a great guy if you're out here being a stupid whatever and getting in trouble, getting locked up. You're going to meet all types of great people when you get locked up, but everybody has a past. And you can read a book, you can look at a book, and it ends up having a complete different story than what the cover looks like. You know what I mean? I can try to come off as a great this and that, or I could try to play off as, you know, just whatever, but what did I really do? You know what I mean? So that's why they say don't judge a book by its cover, because you really can't. The book might look great, but when you read the book, it sucks. Okay. Yeah, or, you know, the cover may not look that appealing, but it was actually a great story. You know, you can't judge a person by their looks, because they might really have a great personality. It's things like that. And you meet a lot of that in prison. You'll look at somebody and go, why the heck is he here? And then you hear what he did. Oh, I see why you're here. And, you know, your bunks are you're going to have a bunkie, he sleeps either on top of you or underneath you. So you're going to have some kind of, you know, uh, structure with your bunkie because you got to live with this person. Yeah, and I've had some interesting bunkies. I had one that didn't like the shower. We used to argue all the time. Dude, you just got back from work, you smell horrible, like you need to go hit the water. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I'm tired, I'll hit it later. Never ends up hitting it. And, I'm like, bro, I'm going to wake you up all night long if I have to smell you while I'm sleeping. I'm just going to keep hitting your bunk, and I'm going to keep waking you up as soon as you fall asleep. And he's like, oh, bro, I'll beat you. And I'm like, bro, like, we could do whatever you want to do because I really don't want to sleep next to you. So either you're going to have to get out of here or I'm going to have to get out of here. And I had to pay the price too, because I let emotion get the best of me. I let emotion get the best of me, and it ended up, sometimes sacrificing when I was getting out. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I feel like even with the officers' perspective, they probably feel like that. They'll see all these guys, and you'll really meet some talented individuals. You'll meet the craziest tattoo artists. You'll meet the craziest tattoo artists. You'll see guys in crazy physiques, like they could be a fitness trainer. You'll meet some cooks if you get to work in the kitchen and see what people can really do. You can't really see what they can really do with prison food, but you know what I mean? You can see, like, oh, he could be a good cook, People will make the craziest stuff, and they'll take wires out of radios, and they'll take wires out of this, and components and chips and pieces out of whatever, and out of headphones and cell phones and, all types of stuff, and they'll make the craziest mechanisms. They make the craziest little tattoo guns. And there's talent in there. You'll see people draw, and you're like, holy moly, you made that with just colored pencils and paper? That is crazy. Yeah, you'll see people make these cards for like Valentine's Day and Christmas and stuff like that, and they'll be pop outs, so like when you open the card, it's got like a pop out of like a family or little stars and Christmas trees. You'll open the paper, and it looks like a Christmas card with the big old Christmas tree in the middle. It's crazy. And you'll see some real interesting stuff. Something I always did a lot in prison was, because I especially after my first year, I really started getting into exercising and stuff. And, because when I first went to prison, I could hardly do a pull-up, and I'm like, bro, these people are out here killing it on the pull-up bars, they're just going set after set after set. I'm struggling to do one, so my goal was, like, I want to be able to do 10 pull-ups by the time I leave here, and I ended up getting to 20, and, I feel like when you make these goals in prison, it helps you do your time, you don't really have much to look forward to, so you need something to really look forward to, and you got to set all these little things to look forward to and help you do your time and make these little goals, and you don't really have much to work with. So something as simple as being able to do pull-ups, it meant the entire world to me, and I never really set goals in the outside world before, so it was a big deal for me. My big goal when I went to prison, because my first year I just kind of started eating a lot of food and not doing much. My big goal is I wanted my upper body to be wider than the bottom half, because I was kind of putting on some weight at the time, but I wasn't really working out my first year, like I said. So that was one of my big goals, and being able to achieve it, it meant the world to me. So it taught me how to really set goals for myself, and especially long-term goals, and making them happen. So that was a big deal for me. It definitely helped change me in a positive aspect. I would say the most beneficial thing I got from it was definitely my work ethic. I definitely got a good work ethic, and I didn't want to sit in the prison. I didn't want to sit inside of the fence. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be around the idiots and the people in my dorm and everyone that's trying to get high all the time. And, people are always smoking something, doing something, twacking out, K2 this, black that, they called it black. And it was like a super strong version of K2. And so they just called it black. And, like I said, people would be seizing out, and the dude fell off his bunk seizing out and hit his head on the ground, killed himself. Excuse my language. But, he didn't come back from that. And, we're all just hanging out at nighttime, chilling out before final count, master count. And, we're all just chilling, and all of a sudden, this dude just, boom, gone. That's not a life to live. It is what it is after it happens. And it's like, alright, there's nothing we can do to change it, but that's not a way to live. So, my mindset, I feel like, changed somewhere along the way. Because it's like, everyone talks about, oh, prison, cool, prison, yeah, I went to prison, I did this, I did that. There's nothing cool about that. You're wasting your life. You're missing out on so much in the world every second, every day that you're in there, And now if you're going to be in there for years, that's just a total waste of life to me. I feel like, especially, jail, you really don't do anything. At least in prison, you get to go outside and stuff and hit the rec yard and get a job, but jail's even worse, I feel like, with wasting your life away because you can't get anything from it. And I'm not saying prison's good, but I still got my OSHA 30, I got a forklift license, I got a bunch of carpentry certifications, and a certification to build tiny houses, tiny homes, so at least there was some things to gain out of it I could at least put on a resume, and then actually having a job for a year, a real job, and then working at the sawmill, I still put that on my resume too. We had a whole class for like a month to build us a new resume for when we got out. We made online resumes, we got laptops. In the prison that I was at, this was like one of those camps to get you ready to go to work release. I was only there for like a few months. But we had little laptops coming in, and we got to make an online resume. We went to work release, did a class in there, a tiny homes program, got to go on computers and study, do the 30-hour OSHA class, the online OSHA 30 class. Got a real card and everything, and it doesn't even look like you went to prison to get it. I'll show you. Nothing on this says prison. So, I just thought, some stuff like that is pretty cool, you actually get some tools to help you transition back into the real world. That's why I wanted to go to work release. And I got they take like 85% of your money for bills, but I still got out with a little over $3,000. It took time. When I bought my car, I bought an SUV when I got out of prison because I already had a job. I had an interview in Michigan while I was in work release in Florida. So I already had, but as money started coming in, I'm working and I'm getting work release money at the same time. So I'm getting a paycheck every week and I'm still getting some of my money because they don't give you all your money at once. They give you like $600. I had like $3,000, a little over $3,000 when I got out of work release. And I was only in there for like 9 months, but my first 4 months I was in a class, and then there was hurricanes coming, so they sent us back to prison like 3 times. We went to Polk, we went to Butler, while we were in work release, but we had to be separated from the rest of actual prisoners because we were now community custody work release inmates on, we had monitors, waist monitors, ankle monitors. We had to be away from them, and we were still prisoners. You know what I mean? But it was just weird because we got sent back to prison 3 times. There was two of them were a hurricane, and we did get hit. There was one warning, like even if there's a hurricane watch, not even an actual warning, a watch, they send you to prison. They send you back to prison. So, some people get fired from their jobs. They'll contact the officers will contact your boss and, let them know what's going on. But that's like the only exception. It's okay to get fired from your job at work release. If there's a hurricane watch / warning, and that they have to send us back to prison for a week till it goes over or whatever, they will pull certain people out, for their jobs. Like let's say they clear the hurricane watch or clear the hurricane warning, and you have to go to work the next day. They'll pull certain people out and transport you back to work release for your job, but the rest of you, you're dead. The rest of you, you're dead. Especially if you don't have a job. You're waiting with everybody else to go back. They wait like an extra day or two after it gets cleared. We had one where we were stuck at Polk for like 3 weeks. Polk CI. We had an actual hurricane hit us, full on hit us, and I think we were there for 2 weeks. Then another hurricane came. Another one came. We just talking about prison. And I was so frustrated. So, we're separated from the rest of the prison, so we're only eating bag lunches, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 2 weeks. Bologna sandwich, peanut butter sandwich, and an apple. Sometimes an apple. For 3 meals a day. I was so hungry. They don't let you bring canteen with you. They don't let you bring no food with you when it's when you're going to when you're transferring to a prison temporarily. Alright, see you later. Glad you stopped in, D-Bugs. But that was so annoying. So like when you're on work release, there's no reason why you shouldn't be ordering food from Amazon. You can order certain things from Amazon. The officers are going to look at your packages. They're going to open them for you. They're going to look at it. They're going to look through everything. And then they're going to give you whatever you bought. And you have to follow. There's a piece of paper. And you're going to write what you want to order. Then you have to get it signed. Then you make the order on Amazon through your flip phone or whatever. Or have your people, whatever. And then it'll come in, you have to bring that paper with you that got signed by an officer. It has to be signed by like a sergeant. And then everything that comes in on your Amazon thing, on your checklist, has to be on that piece of paper. I've seen so much stuff. I'm talking, one of my old buddies, he got like 50 cans of tuna when he first came in. You can't get the cans. So this made him mad. You could only get the pouches, and you could only get like 20 at a time. He got like 48 cans of tuna. They kept all of his tuna and fed it to the cats. He bought like $50 worth of tuna, and they fed it to the cats. Because they had a couple cats that were there, and then they had kittens. And so, yeah, like that's what they did. You can't have it, but we can have it and do whatever we want with your stuff. It's crazy. And they literally told him, well, you can't have cans, so we're going to keep it and feed it to the cats so it'll get to good use. Oh, he was hot. People will try to order like certain types of shoes and clothes. That was a big thing that you couldn't have. like certain types of stuff. But back to the main topic, prison definitely changes you, man. You're gonna go in green. You're gonna go in green. You're not gonna know a thing. You're not gonna know anything about this type of life, and it's gonna hit you quick because you gotta get it together. You gotta get it together. You can't just go in, do whatever you want, act however you want. You gotta have respect. You gotta, be able to control yourself inside. If you don't have emotional stability, it's not the place for you to go. You need to be able to control your emotions and have self-control with everything. You need to have a type of structure and balance to your life and have a routine to get you through your day so you don't lose your sanity. And you have to be able to hold on to that for years. If you're in for years, you have to hold on to it for years. And that was the rough part. I feel like my first year, it wasn't a whole year because I did start working out within my first year. I know I said after. But after like 6-7 months is when I started to, alright, I'm going to do some push-ups. I'm going to do some push-ups. If I'm not working out, I'm at least, try to get some push-ups in. And my chest started growing and I was enjoying it, And so I was like, alright, I don't have anything going for me but these push-ups. So we're just going to start doing push-ups every day. And, that was my first step to applying like a little bit of structure into my life when I was in there. And I just couldn't figure out anything to get rid of my time. I had my tablet, I'd put my music on, but I just got bored of sitting on my bunk and listening to music, They didn't have all the games on the tablets yet. Like, they had games, but you had to pay for them. After the hurricane, they did a thing where they gave us 20 games. They gave everybody 20 free games on their tablet. So, it would be push-ups, music, and playing the little games on the tablet if I wasn't working. And I found a couple tracks where they pirated, people uploaded music to an app, to the Securus app or whatever on the tablets, and you buy your music. So you have your FM radio app, but you can buy the music, and it goes in your little music app. Someone was pirating music. They took Kevin Gates' albums and made one song out of it. So you could buy the song for 99 cents, but it's like a 50-minute song with like 15 different Kevin Gates songs. So I had like 4 of those. It was like $4. They were 99 cents each. I think they were like $1.99. And for each track. But each track was like 50, 53 minutes, 51 minutes. So it gave me like 100 Kevin Gates songs for $4. So that was my workout playlist. I just put on one of those. I had like this little backpack thing that they made out of canteen bags, and they made it out of like a laundry bag and straps from the canteen bags and stuff. And it was crazy. This guy would make backpacks. So I got one for like $3 in food, and I put my tablet in it. And I just go hit the bars, because if I'm doing push-ups or pull-ups or the dips, the tablet's not going to fall out the backpack. The backpack was kind of, you had to fickle with it a little bit, But I didn't want my tablet falling out and getting messed up and cracked, because people would have these tablets, they'd be shattered. You're not getting a new tablet. You can put in for a new tablet, but you're not getting a new tablet. You're just not, So I was very careful with my tablet. But I wanted to work out with it. I ended up picking up one of those Walkman radios, but you're in the middle of nowhere, you know what I mean? So you're not really getting a radio reception. You really want to use your tablet. You can get the Walkman radio, but when you're in Rayford, Florida, in the middle of nowhere, you're not really getting radio reception. It is what it is. And, you could get the radio in certain spots, but you can't just walk around the rec yard and expect a perfect radio signal when you're in the middle of nowhere, So that was something that I looked forward to, and it was just survival. Yeah, that's what it was. It was survival. What's up, Teddy? The big part of being in there is survival. And that's just what it is. You don't want no bad beef with nobody. I've been jumped. I've been jumped by Bloods over a cigarette. You know, because I had my buddy. His name was Dave, and he was at the work camp that I was at longer than anybody. So he was paying off the officer to keep cigarettes in the shed and all this and that, and doing deals with the Zoes and the gang members and the Bloods, and it became like some crazy beef because he's doing this business with the Zoes and trying to get other stuff dropped off, but the officer wasn't cool with it because he's like, I'm cool with the cigarettes, but I don't want no, DOPE involved. So it was some real sneaky stuff. And, Dave would have me, hold his cigarettes in the dorm, because he wouldn't bring back a lot. He had his stash, but, he'd bring, like, a pack back. I'm not bringing, you know what I mean? I'm not bringing them in, but, if I'm in the dorm and you got, like, 8 cigarettes, I don't mind it. I'll just hold them in my sock or something, or keep them tucked away in the mat somewhere, you know what I mean? He's going to give me a couple cigarettes for doing that. Heck yeah, that's my food for the day. Not a big hustle, but, consistent, every day. If I have a pack, just hold on to them and I'll give you a couple every single day. Even if he only had 6 cigarettes out of the pack, he's still going to give me 2 that day. So, pack of 305 cigars is like $1.29. That's like 20 cents. You know what I mean? You're going to make that investment. You're already making so many selling packs and packs and packs to everybody else. So, I would do other little things. So, we all worked on the same work squad. So, we'd go work on houses and stuff. I told you the officer was being paid off, so he already knew what time it was. We would just go in the work truck and go pick them up, you know what I mean? So he'd go get the packs dropped off. I'd help wrap them up and wrapper and tape, and and I'd go whatever, you know what I mean? It would be 3 of us, me, Dave, and Click, and so we would grab as many as we needed. If we're bringing back 2 cartons, cool. All the other guys, they're getting paid good. They're getting paid 5 cigarettes for each pack that they bring in. That's why I'm only getting a couple, because I'm not bringing them in. But if I'm helping wrapping them up, gotcha. He would give me a cigarette every morning at work. He'd give me a cigarette before we left. He wouldn't tell you what to do with it, but it was kind of like, alright, we're just going to smoke them, you know what I mean? And then in the dorm, I'd get a couple, but sometimes I'd get a couple if I was help wrapping them up and stuff. Sweet. Easy money. I made more doing that than I did actually getting 20 cents an hour at the sawmill. Because that was too complicated. It was way too complicated and complex. I forgot this dyke chick's name, but she was always watching with binoculars and watching people get drops and stuff, and she was crazy. People driving by the sawmill and throwing stuff over the fence. Real crazy. And she's watching. It was way too complex. So it was real straight, just being on the outside work squad. There was weeks I'd make an easy $50-$60 in canteen, just wrapping cigarettes and just holding on to a few cigarettes. I only got caught one time, and that was with my own pack, because I bought a pack. And I also got discounts. Packs were going for $25 and $30. I'm getting them for $20, easy, all day. And no one's getting a pack for $25, under $25. And certain people are going to have to pay more, especially if they owe. So all day, I've gotten a pack for $15, plenty of times. And that's money because you're selling each cigarette for $3. $3 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 30, 60 bucks when you spread out a pack. You get the pack for 20 bucks and you make 40 bucks profit. So that was something that I used to do, but I'd have my bunkie, if I could trust him at the time, trust as in not being an idiot. If I could trust him as not being an idiot and being stupid, yeah, you can hold on to it and I'll feed you every night and you can get a couple cigarettes out of it. Just handle the business. I had a real good bunkie who was a dope head, always trying to smoke. So he always wanted to, and he was kind of big though, way bigger than me. And he's also been locked up for 8 years, you know what I mean? So he would always want to sell my cigarettes, and he did. And so I could just get another pack the next day, and boom, I would have a drawer full of food, and his drawer would be filled with my food. And we're eating good every night. I wasn't trying to make money. I was trying to survive. So prison's going to teach you how to survive. You're going to have better survival instincts. You're going to know how to rationalize and portion better and know what to do with things better. Because I made good money breaking the law and being stupid before, but I always had a problem saving money. And I'd save money for a bit and then spend it. So I'll definitely say I've learned how to live with a lot less, and I've learned how to save and portion way better. I've had, whenever I live with somebody, or, or if I'm staying with family for a bit or whatever, oh yeah, I know he did that, there's only like three little chips left in the bag, or the tiniest little shot of shampoo. I got a bottle of shampoo. I know I'm going to get 2 more uses out of it, but there's like only a bit left. Like, why don't you throw that away? Because I can still use it, and I will use it. Prison will teach you stuff like that. And it becomes just a habit, an instinct, you're not trying to be cheap. It's just a normal way of living because that's just what you did for so long. Who we all got in here? What's up, everybody? Oh, I did not see this comment earlier. I think the problem is when you're in jail, it's sink or swim, which can give drive, even if there is none. But see, in real life, out of jail, there's so many distractions compared to jail. Absolutely. Spot on with that. Spot on with that. Sink or swim. Yeah, you're either going to sink or you're going to swim and flow in motion. There's plenty of distractions out here in the real world, so it can just grab time like that. You can waste so much time, and when you're in jail, you don't got much to do, so you're going to be focused more on what you're doing. You're going to have more clarity, more of a conscience, less distraction, and even small boring things that we might perceive in the real world becomes very entertaining sometimes in jail or in prison because we're just not used to seeing that. Like, I remember I was so intrigued in watching spiders fight each other. Bro, we would have people lining up watching spiders fight each other outside at the rec yard, or not really in the rec yard, more in the dorm. And, like, people would raise these spiders, these jumping spiders, and, like, it was just interesting watching them fight each other. I've never been a lizard guy, but there's some pretty interesting lizards in prison. I wasn't like fascinated by them or anything, but I will say watching the spiders fight each other was pretty interesting. But I can never see myself doing that now, you know what I mean? Alright, what else we got going on in the chat? So yeah. Just checking these comments real quick, making sure I'm not missing anything here. I like doing the live streams. I'm trying to set up my laptop and to record in something. I want to get into like a game that's trending for PC, but my laptop to be able to handle it. And I tried to look up the most like trending games for PC and it said Roblox, and I'm like, bro, I'm not playing Roblox. That's not gonna be a thing. And then they got Call of Duty on it, and I'm like, whoa, you know? So I don't know. I want to get into Call of Duty and streaming, or like GTA and streaming, but my laptop ain't going to be able to handle that. I had to get a PS5 or get a gaming PC. So that's coming up one of these days. I don't know when, I don't know where, I don't know how at this very second, but eventually it will be. But anyways, I'm gonna hop off for now. Probably stop in, check in later on, and we'll do another live later on. So appreciate y'all for tapping in. Y'all stay safe, and have a good one.